The recording device felt like a stone in my pocket as Victoria entered the guest lounge. 11 o'clock, 1 hour before she married my son. One-party consent. Legal in Arizona. I'd checked 3 times. Michael, thank you for meeting me. Her smile was practiced. Perfect. I know things have been tense. I activated the recorder in my jacket. Single red blink. She sat, crossed her legs, and the mask dropped. Let's be practical. David and I need a house, Paradise Valley, $385,000. My throat tightened. Victoria, that's... Here's what's happening. Her voice went ice cold. You're going to wire that money this week, or I tell everyone at this wedding that I'm pregnant with your child. The room tilted. That's absurd. Is it? Who will they believe? A 63-year-old man or a pregnant 38-year-old bride in a Vera Wang gown? She leaned forward. I'll tell them you tried to seduce me at that first dinner, that you've been sending me inappropriate messages for weeks, that when I rejected you, you fabricated those financial reports to destroy my reputation. She smiled, sharp as broken glass. David will never speak to you again. Your business? Destroyed. Furniture magnate preys on son's pregnant fiancée. That's front page material in Phoenix. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the recorder. Held it up. The red light blinked steadily. Her face drained white as her wedding dress. What is that? Every word. From the moment you walked in. She lunged for it, screaming. I stepped back, walked toward the door. You can't. That's illegal. One-party consent state. Completely legal. I headed downstairs to the ballroom. Her screams followed me. The composure she'd worn for months finally shattered. 3 months earlier. The fabric samples lay scattered across my desk when the phone rang. Thursday afternoon, February 6th, the kind of quiet day where business hums along without crisis. Dad, are you sitting down? David's voice hit me like electricity. My son didn't call during work hours unless something had happened. Accident, job loss, health crisis. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect. His words tumbled over each other, breathless. Victoria's pregnant. We're getting married 2 weeks from Saturday. I know it's fast, but when you know, right? The samples slipped from my fingers. David, my son, who'd stumbled through 3 failed engagements in his 20s, who'd spent the last 5 years avoiding commitment entirely after his divorce from Emily, who'd been so broken when she left that he'd slept on my couch for 6 months, saying the same thing every night. I just wanted to prove I could be successful without always chasing your approval. Now, pregnant, married in 2 weeks to someone I'd never met. David, that's... I searched for words that felt genuine. That's wonderful. I'm happy for you. I want you to meet her properly. Tonight, maybe? Can we come for dinner? 7 o'clock. I glanced at my watch. 3:15. Absolutely. 7 o'clock. After he hung up, I sat back in my leather chair and stared at the ceiling tiles. David hadn't mentioned Victoria before last month. Now she was pregnant, and they were planning a wedding. The timeline felt compressed, rushed. But maybe that was just my old-fashioned sensibility talking. My late wife Sarah and I had dated for 3 years before marrying. Different generation, different rules. I wanted this to work for him. I wanted it badly enough that I ignored the small voice whispering that something felt wrong. The market on Camelback had decent steaks. I selected 2 ribeyes and a New York strip, grabbed asparagus and baby potatoes. Wine. I chose a Napa Cabernet. Nothing too expensive, but respectable. At home, I set the dining room table with Sarah's china, the ivory plates with the delicate gold rim she'd received from her grandmother. If David was starting a family, this moment deserved acknowledgement. Tradition mattered. They arrived exactly at 7. David came through the door with that nervous energy I remembered from his childhood piano recitals, practically vibrating. The woman beside him moved differently, smooth, controlled, her heels clicking against my tile entryway with purpose. "Dad, this is Victoria." She was striking. Dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly utility bill. Her handshake was firm, almost aggressive, and her smile stayed fixed on her mouth without reaching her eyes. "Michael," she said, using my first name immediately. "David talks about you constantly. What a lovely home." "Thank you. Please come in. Dinner's almost ready." David hovered beside her like a satellite, watching her reactions, seeking her approval with every glance. I led them to the dining room where Victoria's attention immediately locked onto the china cabinet. "Interesting pieces," she said, phone already in her hand. "Are these antiques? Do you mind if I take a few photos? I love vintage design." Before I could answer, she was snapping pictures. The credenza, the grandfather clock in the corner, the cabinet itself. Not the casual photos of someone appreciating beauty. These were systematic, cataloging. "Victoria's really into interior design," David jumped in. "She's got amazing taste." "I'm sure she does." I headed to the kitchen, grateful for the excuse to move. Something in her tone when she said antiques hadn't sounded like admiration. It sounded like appraisal. The dinner started pleasantly enough. David asked about the business, updated me on his work in commercial real estate, but Victoria dominated the conversation with surgical precision. "4 stores," she said, cutting into her steak, eyes on me. "That must generate significant revenue." I kept my voice light, businesslike. "It varies. Economy affects furniture sales more than people realize. But you must do well. This neighborhood, the house, the business." She gestured with her fork. "You've built something substantial." David shifted in his seat, cutting his meat into smaller and smaller pieces. "I worked hard," I said carefully. "Built it from a single storefront 40 years ago." "Very impressive." Victoria sipped her wine. "We drove through Paradise Valley yesterday. Those estates are breathtaking. That's where I picture raising a family. Good schools, safe neighborhoods. Important for children, don't you think?" The implication hung between us like smoke. "Paradise Valley is expensive," I said. "Of course, but you can't put a price on a grandchild's future." Her hand covered David's on the table. "We're still figuring out our housing situation. My current rental is impossible. The landlord refuses to make basic repairs. With a baby coming, we need proper space." David finally spoke, his voice quiet. "We're looking at places, Dad. Nothing fancy yet." "Nothing fancy, but something safe," Victoria added, her smile widening. "David tells me you're very generous with family. That's rare these days." I took a long drink of water, buying time. Every instinct I'd honed over 40 years in business was firing warnings. These weren't casual dinner questions. She was establishing needs, testing responses, calculating possibilities. The rest of the meal passed in similar fashion. Victoria commented on the furniture, then asked what pieces cost. She mentioned her student loans, then wondered aloud how David's family handled financial planning. She complimented the house, then noted how much upkeep older homes required. David barely spoke. When he did, it was to soften her edges. What Victoria means is, or she's just excited about the wedding. When they finally left around 10:30, Victoria hugged me at the door. She leaned in close, her perfume overwhelming, and whispered, "Thank you for being so understanding. David talks about your generosity all the time. We're lucky to have you." David's hug was quick, distracted. He seemed eager to leave. I stood in the doorway, watching their taillights disappear down the street. Victoria's head was already bent over her phone, illuminated by the screen's glow. Inside, I cleared the table slowly, rinsing Sarah's china by hand. though the dishwasher would have been easier. My hands moved through the routine while my mind replayed the evening. The way Victoria photographed my home without really asking. The pointed questions about money, about real estate, about my generosity. David's silence, his hunched shoulders, the way he avoided my eyes. I told myself it was nerves, wedding stress, new relationship energy. But my gut, the same instinct that had saved me from disastrous business partnerships, from bad investments, from deals that looked perfect on paper but felt wrong, was screaming. Something about her eyes when she looked around my home. She wasn't seeing a family house where her child's grandfather lived. She was doing math. I woke at 6 Friday morning after 3 hours of fractured sleep. Every time I drifted off, I saw Victoria's face across my dining table, heard her voice asking about revenue and real estate. The coffee maker gurgled while I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the chairs where they'd sat 12 hours earlier. The details wouldn't leave me alone. By 10 o'clock, I was at my office, but the inventory reports sat ignored on my desk. I opened LinkedIn on my computer and typed Victoria Lang Phoenix. Her profile appeared, polished and professional. Spa manager at Desert Serenity Wellness Center. Photos of her at charity events, smiling beside other volunteers. Glowing recommendations from colleagues. Everything looked legitimate. I scrolled deeper. Older posts, comment sections on photos, tags from other users. Patterns emerged. 2 years ago, dinner at Bourbon Steak with my generous boyfriend. 3 years ago, photos at exclusive restaurants, different men in each one. Comments from someone named Rachel kept appearing. Another rich one. You're so lucky, sis. Another. The word stuck like a barb. Another rich one. Not another great guy or another keeper. Rich. That was the qualifying characteristic. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. This felt invasive, ugly. But David was my son, my only child. If someone was targeting him, if she was targeting him, I needed to know. My phone sat on the desk. I picked it up 3 times before finally scrolling through my contacts to Tom Bradley. We'd met at business networking events, crossed paths at charity fundraisers. He worked in credit verification services. We weren't friends exactly, but we were cordial. The conversation was brief and uncomfortable. Tom, I need a favor. Unofficial. It's about my son's fiancée. He didn't ask why. Give me her information. Tom called back at 4:30. Michael, this is off the record, completely unofficial. Understand? I understand. Victoria Marie Lang. Current address lists Tempe, but that's recent. Previous address was a luxury complex in Scottsdale. She was evicted 11 months ago for non-payment. Rent was $2,800 monthly. I wrote the numbers down, my handwriting sharp and precise. She's carrying $43,000 in credit card debt across 7 different cards, all maxed. 2 collection agencies have filed legal actions. She started bankruptcy proceedings 8 months ago but never completed them. The pen stopped moving. $43,000. Classic pattern, Michael. Living beyond means for years. The income she reports doesn't match the spending. Not even close. After I hung up, I sat motionless in my office chair. $43,000 in debt. Evicted from a luxury apartment. 2 lawsuits. None of this appeared on social media, where every photo showed designer clothes and expensive dinners and weekend trips to Sedona. The pregnancy announcement, the rushed wedding, the Paradise Valley comments during dinner. She wasn't marrying David. She was marrying access to money she thought he had. Or more accurately, money she thought I had. I called David at 6:15, after business hours when I knew he'd be home. I'd rehearsed the conversation in my head, planned to stay calm and rational. Son, we need to talk about Victoria. What about her? His voice immediately sharpened. Have you checked her financial background? What? What are you talking about? I had someone look into her credit history. David, she has substantial debt, over $40,000. She was evicted from her previous apartment. There are collection agencies. You what? The explosion came through the phone like a physical force. You investigated her? You called in favors to spy on my fiancée? David, listen to me. She has 7 maxed credit cards, 2 active lawsuits. This is serious financial trouble. How dare you? His voice cracked. Do you have any idea how controlling this is? How invasive? I'm 35 years old, Dad. I don't need you vetting my life like I'm some teenager. I'm trying to protect you. These are facts. She was paying rent she couldn't afford. She's buried in debt. You can't stand seeing me happy. The words came out ragged, wounded. You never approved of anyone I dated. Emily, Rachel, Sarah. You found problems with all of them. This isn't different. This isn't about approval. I kept my voice level, fighting to stay calm. This is about a woman with a pattern of financial irresponsibility who suddenly appears pregnant and wants to get married in 2 weeks. David, please just think about the timeline. You just can't stand the thought of me being happy with someone you didn't choose. His voice shook with anguish. You never could. I should have known you'd find a way to ruin this. Then the words that would haunt me for months. Mom died because you were always at the store, Michael, always choosing business over family. Now you're doing it again, destroying my happiness because you can't stand being left behind. The accusation hit like a fist to the chest. David, don't call me again. The line went dead. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at the darkened screen. Outside my office window, the Phoenix sunset painted the sky orange and purple, beautiful and meaningless. A week had passed since David hung up on me. 7 days of silence that felt like months. I'd left voicemails, 8 of them. The first 2 were calm, rational. By the 4th, I was pleading. By the 7th, I stopped trying to sound composed. None were returned. Then the private investigator's report arrived. 3 manila folders spread across my desk. Folder 1. James, Cooper, 45, Tech Executive, 2020. Bank records showing he paid Victoria $75,000 after dating 6 months. His statement: she threatened to accuse me of assault if I didn't pay. I had a daughter, a business reputation. I paid to make her disappear. Folder 2. Daniel Rivera, 51, real estate investor, 2019, 4-month relationship. Sudden pregnancy claim. Daniel paid $50,000 before Victoria miscarried 2 weeks later. Folder 3. Peter Wong, 48, restaurant owner, 2017. He paid $30,000 after she threatened workplace harassment claims. 3 men in 6 years. $155,000 extracted through threats. Each relationship followed identical beats: charm offensive, rapid escalation, pregnancy or assault claim, payment, disappearance. The PI's note: subject displays textbook predatory financial behavior. Targets men 15 to 20 years older with established wealth and family reputation to protect. David fit the profile perfectly. Not wealthy himself, but with a father who was. Victoria hadn't fallen for David. She'd researched him like a business investment. Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Michael, it's Victoria. We need to talk privately before the ceremony. Important for David's sake. Tomorrow evening, your house. 7 p.m. David thinks I'm at my bachelorette dinner. She was making a move. My instinct screamed, this was negotiation, not reconciliation. I typed, 7 p.m. I'll be here. Thursday morning, I drove to an electronics store on Bell Road. I need a recording device for business meetings. The clerk showed me a unit the size of a USB drive. 20 hours battery, voice activated, clear audio up to 15 feet. Is it legal in Arizona? Absolutely. One-party consent state. You can record any conversation you're part of. I bought it immediately. Tested it at home. My voice played back clear and distinct. Whatever Victoria wanted, I'd have proof. Friday evening at 7, Victoria's BMW pulled into my driveway. She wore a soft pink sweater, makeup understated, hair loose. Every detail calculated to project innocence. I activated the recorder before opening the door. Red blink. Michael, thank you for seeing me. I know things have been tense. I led her to the living room. She settled onto the couch, accepted water. I owe you an apology. I was pushy at dinner. Wedding stress. Her eyes were wide, sincere. David loves you so much. This distance is killing him. Can we start over? If I didn't know what I knew, I might have believed her. I appreciate that, Victoria. She smiled, then carefully. There is one small thing. David's stressed about money. The wedding costs more than planned. I wondered if you might help with housing after we're married. Just temporarily. Testing my willingness to provide money. We can discuss that after you're married, I said. Let's focus on the wedding first. Her smile tightened. Not the answer she wanted. She left 15 minutes later. I played back the recording. Her voice crystal clear. Every inflection captured. Tomorrow was the wedding. The Saturday morning, the Phoenician resort spread across Camelback Mountain like a palace. Ice sculptures flanked the entrance, massive swans. Floral arrangements 12 feet tall lined the walkway. I calculated $5,000 for flowers alone. David's friends arrived in designer clothes and expensive suits, the kind of crowd Victoria wanted as witnesses. I touched the recorder in my jacket pocket. My phone buzzed. Guest lounge, second floor, east wing, 11 a.m., alone. The ballroom had been transformed. Crystal chandeliers, hundreds of white roses, gold chairs for 200 guests, string quartet warming up, champagne fountain flowing. Through an open door, I saw David surrounded by groomsmen, laughing, adjusting his bow tie. He looked genuinely happy. My chest tightened. At 11, I climbed to the second floor. The guest lounge was empty, private, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountain. I activated the recorder. Red blink, slipped it back into my pocket. Victoria entered at 11:03, closing the door quietly. The Vera Wang gown was stunning, elegant silk with intricate beading, her makeup flawless, hair swept up, diamond earrings catching light. She looked like a princess, but her eyes were cold mathematics. Michael, thank you for coming early. I know things have been difficult. I nodded, said nothing. She walked to the window. It's a beautiful day. David's so happy. He wishes you two weren't fighting. I want him to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. She turned, smile never reaching her eyes. Then we should talk about how to make that happen. Permanently. The word hung between us like a suspended blade. Michael, let's be practical. Her tone shifted to pure business. David and I need a house, Paradise Valley, $385,000. Victoria, that's a significant amount. She cut me off. I'm pregnant. We need proper space. You're a grandfather now. Surely that means something. I can help with a down payment, 15, maybe 20%, but purchasing an entire house, that's not going to work. Her voice went ice cold. The mask dropped completely. She stepped closer. Here's what's happening. You're going to buy us that house, full payment, this week. And if I don't? Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Then I tell everyone the truth, that I'm pregnant with your child. Ice flooded my veins. That's absurd. No one would believe. She laughed, soft and vicious. Really? Who will they believe? A 63-year-old man or a pregnant 38-year-old woman in a wedding dress? Each word was a calculated strike. I'll tell them you tried to seduce me at that first dinner, that you've been sending me inappropriate messages for weeks, that when I rejected you, you tried to sabotage our wedding with fake financial reports. My hands clenched into fists. David will never speak to you again. Your business reputation? Destroyed. Everyone loves a scandal. Furniture magnate preys on son's pregnant fiancée. That's front-page material. She paused. Or you buy us a house, play the generous grandfather, and everyone's happy. Your choice. You have 60 seconds. The silence stretched. 3 seconds. 4. 5. Then I spoke, my voice quiet and level. Victoria, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Her smile faltered. Excuse me? I reached into my pocket and pulled out the recorder. Held it up. The red light blinked steadily. Her face drained white. What is that? Every word. From the moment you walked in. She lunged forward, grabbing for the device, her voice rising to a shriek. Give me that. You can't. That's illegal. I pulled back, stepped toward the door. Arizona is a one-party consent state, completely legal. You recorded me. You set me up. I opened the door and walked quickly down the stairs toward the ceremony hall. Her screams followed me, the composure she'd worn for months finally shattered. Michael, wait. Please, we can work this out. I didn't mean... Guests in the foyer turned, staring. I didn't stop. I entered the ballroom and walked straight to the sound technician near the string quartet. Connect this to your system. Play it now. The technician looked confused. Sir, the ceremony's about to... Do it now. Victoria rushed in behind me, mascara starting to run, face twisted with panic. David appeared from the groom's room, his expression confused. Dad, what's happening? The recording began. Victoria's voice filled the ballroom through crystal-clear speakers. Michael, let's be practical. David and I need a house, Paradise Valley, $385,000. Every guest froze. 200 people locked in horrified silence. The recording continued. Her pregnancy threat, the seduction accusation, the blackmail demand. Every word captured with perfect clarity. David stood paralyzed, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, recognition, horror. When the recording ended, silence blanketed the room like sudden snow. Victoria stumbled backward, words failing, excuses dying on her lips. David stared at his bride, then at me, then back at Victoria. His voice broke. Tell me he faked that. Tell me this isn't real. Victoria opened her mouth, but no convincing lie emerged. I watched my son's face crack open, watched the illusion he'd built shatter into pieces. Then he said the words that would haunt me for months. You always did this. Every relationship I had, you found something wrong. You recorded her without permission. You set her up. His eyes were wet now, voice shaking. You're jealous because you've been alone since Mom died, and you can't handle me being loved. The accusation hit like a fist to the chest. This isn't about control, I said quietly. She was blackmailing me. You heard it. You can't stand seeing me happy with someone you didn't choose. His words came ragged, wounded. You never could. Then the killing blow. Mom died because you were always at the store, Michael, always choosing business over family. Now you're doing it again, destroying my happiness because you can't stand being left behind. David took Victoria's hand. We're leaving. Don't contact me, ever. Victoria threw me a look over her shoulder as they walked toward the exit. Calculation mixed with triumph. She'd lost the wedding, but kept her prize. I stood alone in that ballroom, surrounded by $80,000 worth of flowers and untouched champagne fountains, and wondered if my son was right. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from David's number. I'm not your son anymore. Victoria and I are moving forward together. Don't call. Don't text. You're dead to me. I read it 3 times. Each word felt permanent, carved in stone. A Monday morning, I sat across from Edward Mitchell in his downtown Phoenix office. Gray suit, calculating eyes. He'd listened to the recording twice, taken notes. The recording is completely legal. One-party consent. He paused. But she can still sue you. Emotional distress, defamation. Make your life expensive even if she loses. So she gets away with it. Not necessarily. You need to build a pattern. Show this isn't isolated. He slid a business card across. Private investigator. Her history, previous relationships. If she's done this before, those men might talk. He added quietly, one more thing. I checked hospital records. Victoria hasn't seen an OB/GYN in 2 years. No prenatal appointments. No vitamins on insurance. She's not pregnant. No medical evidence she is. The blackmail becomes even more calculated. She was building urgency around fiction. When Victoria's lawsuit arrived 3 weeks later, $500,000 for emotional distress, Edward had 2 strategies ready. Defensive keeps it quiet. Aggressive makes it public and ugly. Her previous victims testify. Financial schemes exposed. He paused. But David's name is attached. He gets dragged through everything. I stared at both documents. David had signed the complaint against me, but he was also a victim. Aggressive, I said. David needs to see the full truth, even if he hates me for it. The Maricopa County Superior Court building rose from downtown Phoenix in June heat. Judge Morrison presided, mid-50s, sharp eyes, no patience for manipulation. Victoria's attorney delivered opening statements theatrically. Michael Harrison, jealous father, controlling manipulator who destroyed his son's happiness out of pure spite. David sat in the gallery behind Victoria, pale, avoiding my eyes. 3 rows back, a woman I'd never met sat alone. Early 60s, gray hair, tired, kind eyes. She caught my attention, nodded slightly. Edward waited beside me with predatory patience. 3 evidence boxes at his feet. Victoria took the stand, swearing oath with practiced sincerity. I fell in love with David. I was excited to join his family. But Michael was hostile from the start. Her voice trembled. He investigated me without permission, then recorded a private conversation where I was joking, poorly, about needing a house. He played that recording at our wedding in front of 200 people. David lost his job from the stress, all because Michael couldn't accept someone loving his son. She dabbed her eyes. The performance was flawless. When her lawyer finished, Edward stood slowly. He asked 3 quiet questions. Miss Lang, how many men have you dated in the past 8 years who were significantly older and financially established? Victoria hesitated. I don't see how that's relevant. Your Honor, Edward said mildly, it will become very relevant. Judge Morrison nodded. Answer the question. I don't keep track of that. Would you say more than 5? I don't remember. Edward smiled. We'll return to that. He consulted his notes. Miss Lang, do you own a company called Serenity Wellness Holdings, registered in Delaware? Victoria's composure flickered. That was a business idea that didn't work out. Is David Harrison listed as a partner in that LLC? Silence. No, but we discussed. A simple no is sufficient. Edward sat down. No further questions. Edward began methodically. Your Honor, this isn't about a father's jealousy. It's about documented predatory behavior. He presented audio forensic analysis first, expert testimony confirming the recording was authentic, unedited, with verified timestamps. Next came Victoria's financial history. The credit report showing $43,000 in debt, the eviction, the collection lawsuits, then the Delaware LLC, Victoria's name only. The offshore Cayman Islands account opened 3 weeks before a spa proposal to David. The defense calls James Cooper. A man in his mid-40s entered, expensive suit, graying temples. He wouldn't look at Victoria. Mr. Cooper, how do you know the plaintiff? I dated her 3 years ago, about 6 months. How did that relationship end? Cooper took a breath. She told me she was pregnant, said it was mine. Then she said if I didn't give her $100,000, she'd tell my ex-wife during our custody battle. My daughter was 12. I couldn't risk it. What did you do? I paid $75,000. 2 weeks later, she texted she'd miscarried, then disappeared. He produced bank records, text screenshots, Victoria's words. I need the money by Friday, or I'm calling your ex. The courtroom was silent except for David's sharp intake of breath. Edward continued smoothly. We have 2 more victims. Daniel Rivera paid $50,000 in 2019. Peter Wong paid $30,000 in 2017. Same pattern. Fake pregnancy, blackmail, payment, disappearance. He slid sworn affidavits to the judge. Judge Morrison read, her face darkening. Victoria stood suddenly. Those men are lying. This is a conspiracy. Miss Lang, sit down. Then came the moment that changed everything. The defense calls Margaret Lang. The courtroom rippled with surprise. Victoria's face went white. The woman from the gallery walked to the stand with quiet dignity. Ms. Lang, you're the plaintiff's mother, correct? Yes. Can you tell the court about the $12,000? Margaret's voice was steady. Victoria stole it from my savings 3 years ago. I reported it, then dropped charges when she promised to change. I was wrong. What changed your mind? Margaret pulled out her phone. Last month, I saw texts between Victoria and my younger daughter, Rachel. Screenshots appeared on courtroom screens. Victoria, David's broke, but his dad's loaded. Get David to sue Michael for emotional damages. Split whatever we win. He'll do whatever I tell him. Margaret's hands trembled. I also found Victoria's laptop. Emails dating back 6 years. Spreadsheets tracking men's net worth. Vulnerabilities. Expected returns. She looked at Victoria. Your father would be ashamed. Victoria shouted, You're betraying your own daughter. Judge Morrison's gavel came down hard. Sit down. Edward presented the spreadsheet. The jury passed around printouts. David Harrison, 35. Father owns 4 businesses. Father guilt, isolated. Expected yield, $500K. 9 other names above his. David stared at the screen, face ashen. He wasn't special. He was a mark. Judge Morrison didn't deliberate long. Miss Lang, the recording was legal. The evidence suggests attempted blackmail with a false pregnancy claim. More troubling is the pattern demonstrated by multiple witnesses. This was calculated, repeated fraud. The gavel came down. Complaint dismissed with prejudice. Miss Lang, you're ordered to pay $47,000 in legal costs. I'm referring this to the county prosecutor for criminal investigation. The gavel cracked. This court is adjourned. I exited into afternoon heat. Margaret hugged me briefly. Then I saw David by a parking meter, alone, lost. I approached slowly. Son. He looked at me, really saw me for the first time in 6 months. Dad, those men, the spreadsheet. His voice broke. Was any of it real? Truth. I don't think so. She researched you before you met. She chose you deliberately. David sagged. I quit my job, sold my apartment, sued my own father. Tears streamed. I said Mom died because of you. I know, and I still love you. That never changed. Victoria's voice cut across the lot. David, we're leaving. She grabbed his arm. Don't listen to him. David pulled back slowly. First time resisting. Victoria, they had bank records. Baby, he was acting. We stay together. You and me. David looked between us, visibly at war. I stayed silent. His choice. I need to think, David said quietly. Victoria's face hardened, then the mask returned. Of course. Let's go talk. David walked to her car, movements mechanical. Margaret's hand found mine. Give it time. 2 weeks later, my investigator called. Victoria's meeting Stephen Carter at Dominic's Steakhouse tomorrow at 7. They're forging documents claiming you embezzled David's money. I texted David. Need to talk about your mother. Dominic's, 7 p.m. Hours later, I'll be there. 7:15. If this is a trick, I'm done. I arrived early, took a corner booth, could see table 14, but they couldn't see me. At 7, Victoria and Stephen arrived. Stephen pulled out folders. Investment contracts showing David put $85,000 into Harrison Furniture. Victoria smiled. Perfect. Michael will settle rather than face embezzlement charges. You've milked him 6 months. Stephen laughed. This is the last play. We get $200,000. I disappear. David won't know until the lease bounces. What about the baby? Victoria's laugh was cold. There was never a baby? That idiot believed it without seeing a test. David walked in at 7:12. I texted, "Look right. Table 14, just listen." He froze behind a pillar. Victoria continued. David's such an easy mark. Pathetic how desperate he is to be loved. Men like David, daddy issues, isolated, perfect targets. You tell them what they want to hear and watch them hand over everything. David's face shattered. He turned, saw me. I nodded toward the exit. I found David in the parking lot, face in hands. You tried to tell me, came his voice. I called you jealous, controlling. You were manipulated by a professional. I sold everything, sued my own father, for someone who just called me an idiot, who was never pregnant. You weren't blind, David. There's a difference. I have nothing. I am nothing. I pulled him into a hug. First contact in 8 months. You have me. You've always had me. That never changed. David broke, sobbing. Inside, police arrested Victoria and Stephen. I'd called ahead. The forgery, the conspiracy, the warrant. It all converged. 3 months later, David moved into my guest room, started therapy, found a new job. Margaret and I got engaged in August. Small party, 20 friends. David stood to toast. For months, I thought my father was the enemy, but sometimes the biggest act of love is saying no when everyone else says yes, standing between someone you love and danger, even when they hate you for it. He looked at me. Dad, you saved my life. You let me hate you, sue you, cut you off, and never stopped protecting me. That's not control. That's love. He raised his glass. To Michael and Margaret, 2 people who know real love means telling hard truths. My throat tightened. You're my son. I'd do it again. Every time. Later, David handed me a box. Inside, a photo from 20 years ago. Sarah, David, and me laughing. Time to remember when we were happy so we can be happy again. Victoria was arrested in Miami 6 months later, running the same scheme. Stephen Carter's plea deal got her 3 years plus $280,000 in restitution. I received 1 letter from prison. She was sorry. I was right. Maybe stopping her had saved her too. I put the letter in a drawer. Some apologies don't need acceptance. One Sunday, David brought Emma to dinner. A teacher. Kind, genuine. After dinner, we stood on the patio under Arizona stars. She's good, I said. I know, taking it slow. He paused. But I wanted you to meet her. She seems genuine. But David, my opinion is just that. You get to make your own choices, even if they're wrong. That's how you learn. David smiled. Look at you. Growing. Inside, Margaret and Emma laughed. The sound of family being rebuilt. Different than before, but real. This was the other side of protection. Letting go. Trusting the lessons learned through pain would hold. David would make mistakes again. So would I. But we'd make them together, with eyes open and love intact. That was enough. That was everything. This was the price of protection. And it was worth it.